You know, we often think of ancient texts as, well, distant and dusty, right? Kind of hard to relate to. But the one we're diving into today, it's so raw, so brutally honest, you'd think it was written last week. We're going to break down the Book of Lamentations. And trust me, this isn't just some old religious document. It's a timeless, powerful anatomy of what happens when a whole community's world just completely falls apart. I mean, just think about that for a second. What does it actually sound like when an entire city grieves? Not just one person, but a whole population. When everything you've ever known is just gone. Your home, your safety, your very identity. Well, that's not some theoretical question. The Book of Lamentations is literally the answer. It's a collection of poems that gives a voice to that exact kind of massive collective trauma after a city was conquered and destroyed. And the book just throws you right in with this absolute gut punch of a line. It hits you immediately with this profound sense of shock and total desolation. Seriously, just try to picture it. A huge, bustling city, packed with people. And then suddenly, it's silent. It's empty. That's the haunting image that kicks this whole thing off, and it really sets the stage for everything that follows. So, to really get this level of devastation across, the poet does something incredibly powerful. The first poem, it basically turns the entire city of Jerusalem into a person. They give her a name, Daughter Zion, and they paint this picture of her as a noblewoman, a princess, who has just suffered the most complete and horrifying reversal of fortune you could possibly imagine. And what's so powerful here is the sheer whiplash of it all. I mean, look at this. You've got the then and the now. She was a princess among the provinces, and now she has become a slave. From great among the nations to being like a widow. The poetry just keeps hammering home this sense of total disbelief. It's like they're screaming, how could this have possibly happened to us? All that past glory is now just a painful, bitter memory hanging over the ruins. And this grief, it's not just one note. It's like a whole symphony of suffering. The poem goes into every single aspect of the loss. You've got this deep, profound isolation, weeping all alone in the middle of the night. You've got the sting of betrayal, your so-called friends turning into your enemies, the loss of dignity, losing your children. And then there's this recurring line that just breaks your heart every time. She had no comforter. It's just a total, all-encompassing sorrow. Okay, so right when we're sitting in all this grief, the poem takes this absolutely shocking and honestly audacious turn. It stops being vague about some anonymous enemy, and it points the finger right at the one being who is supposed to be their protector. The poem says that God is the one directly, actively responsible for all this destruction. And the language here is just stunningly blunt. God isn't just, absent or letting this happen from a distance. No, he's portrayed as an enemy warrior, literally taking up a bow and arrow against his own people. The protector has become the attacker. He's picked a side, and it's not theirs. This imagery, it just drives home how personal this attack feels. This is no distant, impersonal judgment from on high. It's described as fury being poured out like fire. I mean, that is visceral. It's this consuming, devastating force aimed right at the heart of their home. And then the poem just comes right out and says it. No more metaphors. The Lord was like an enemy. This is easily one of the most daring, most honest expressions of pain you'll find anywhere in ancient literature. It's asking a terrifying question. What on earth do you do when the one you thought was your savior becomes the one attacking you? So after that huge crescendo of accusation from the whole community, the perspective does a 180. It's like the camera suddenly zooms in. We go from this wide-angle shot of a burning city to a really tight close-up on just one person who's suffering. And this is really the heart of the whole book, where all that pain becomes intensely personal. We have the speaker. We don't know his name, but he's speaking for everyone. And he describes in painful detail what it feels like to be personally targeted by God. He talks about being walled in, about his prayers being ignored, his bones being broken. This is the voice from the absolute bottom of the pit, the testimony of someone who feels completely and utterly abandoned and under attack. And then we hit it. This is rock bottom, the absolute lowest point, a moment of complete, total despair. He doesn't just say, I've lost hope. He says his hope has perished from the Lord. Think about that. He's saying the very source of all hope is now the reason he has none. It really feels like there is nowhere left to go from here.
Which, of course, brings us to the pivotal question of this entire text. When you've lost literally everything, when you feel abandoned by the one you trusted most, when you have absolutely hit rock bottom, what's left? Is there any room for hope at all?
And then, right here, smack in the middle of the book, we get this famous turn. But here's the thing. His circumstances haven't changed. At all. Nothing has gotten better. Instead, what changes is him. He makes a deliberate, conscious choice. He says, "This I recall to my mind. Therefore, I have hope." He is actively choosing to remember God's mercy from the past, even though everything in his present reality is screened in the exact opposite. This is hope as an act of pure will, a defiant memory in the face of despair. But listen, that moment of hope, it doesn't magically fix everything, not even close. The poem immediately pulls that camera lens right back out to show us the grim reality on the ground. It takes us on this horrifying tour of a society that has just completely collapsed.
It all starts with this total loss of value. All the things that were once precious, the gold, the sacred stones from the temple, even the people themselves, are all tarnished, scattered, basically worthless now. It's like everything has lost its meaning.
And then the devastation shifts from, stuff to people. The suffering of the most vulnerable gets put front and center. There's this massive famine that has just destroyed the most basic human bonds. Little kids are literally asking for bread in the streets, and no one is there to help them. There's nothing anyone can do.
And just look at this contrast. It is so stark. The elite, the wealthy, once they were so pristine they were whiter than milk. Now, they're blacker than soot. They used to be brought up in scarlet, the finest clothes, and now they're left to embrace ash heaps. It just goes to show you, nobody was spared. The collapse was absolute. And then we get to this line, and it's arguably the most horrifying line in the entire book. This isn't just about being hungry anymore. This is about the ultimate breakdown of civilization itself. When mothers, the very symbol of compassion, are driven to do this, it means that natural law, morality, humanity itself, it's all been devoured by this catastrophe. So after painting this utterly devastating picture, the final poem shifts its tone one last time. It turns into a prayer, a direct communal prayer. It's this final, desperate appeal to God, and it's not just from one person anymore. It's from we, the whole community. This last chapter is really just a list, a whole litany of everything they've lost. You can think of it as a catalog of grievances that they present directly to God. But it's not just complaining. It's more like it's the evidence for their case. They're showing God exactly why restoration is so desperately needed. They're laying out the full, devastating extent of their ruin to build their appeal. And here it is, the core of their entire request. They're not just asking for their land back or for food to eat. The ultimate thing they're begging for is a restored relationship. Turn us back to you. That's their deepest desire, to fix what's been broken with God and go back to how things were before everything fell apart. But here's the kicker. The book doesn't end neatly. There is no happy resolution. No comforting promise comes down from the heavens. Instead, it just leaves us hanging with this haunting question. It's a final gasp of fear and uncertainty. After all that grief, all the finger-pointing, even after that incredible act of choosing hope, they're still left wondering, is it too late for us? Have you actually rejected us for good? And that unanswered question is exactly why this book is still so incredibly powerful thousands of years later. It doesn't give you easy answers. It's not supposed to. What it does is provide a brutally honest playbook for how human beings confront catastrophe. It tells us that the whole spectrum of responses is valid. The deep sorrow, the rage, that tiny flicker of hope, and yeah, even that lingering uncertainty. It's really a masterclass in how we grieve, how we accuse, how we find a way to hope, and ultimately, how we manage to endure.